Welcome to East Meets West. You know him as the host of the podcast Talking Politics and Religion Without Killing Each Other. And most important, he is the second most important man from Freehold, New Jersey. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Corey Nathan.
And he is the 7-time Emmy-winning broadcast journalist born and raised in beautiful Los Angeles, a region that has garnered a lot of championships. But I guess we'll talk about that soon, right, Rick Garcia?
Yeah, we will. And good to see you, Corey. Listen, I know you were chained to the couch for Super Bowl weekend.
Oh, absolutely. Well, chained to my brother's couch to be
really?
To be technical.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that was nice of him to invite you over. We both hit on the Seahawks. Seahawks beating the New England Patriots 29-13. Some of my buddies complained. They thought the game was too boring. It's a defensive battle. I mean, I'm a purist when it comes to sports in general, Mr. Corey Nathan, in that I like a pitcher's duel as much as I like, 6 home runs in a game. I like a good defensive battle as much as I like offense pouring it on. So, for me, it was an okay game. My team wasn't in it, so yeah. I was cheering for the team that knocked my team out of the playoffs for the second year in a row. In this case, it was Seattle. So Seattle now the champions, the Emerald City celebrating. What were your thoughts on this game?
I enjoyed the game. It was remarkable, that we went into the fourth quarter and the field goal kicker was the MVP of the game. What was it, 12-0 going into the fourth quarter?
Yeah.
So that was remarkable. I really did enjoy how well coached, especially Seattle was, and Seattle's D. I mean, that McDonald is just an artist. He's a Picasso when it comes to D. He's for somebody as accomplished as Vrabel to be dominated as thoroughly as he was by Seattle's D. That was just remarkable. So I enjoyed it for that reason. And It turns out that the final score wasn't too far off of what I was thinking last week. I think I was somewhere in the low 30s to high teens, so not too far off of where I was thinking it would be.
So 2 teams that came in with some big, defensive credentials, led by defensive coordinators, right? That's a rare football game when you got the head coach for both teams with defensive backgrounds, right? Here's what I'll say. This is kind of the high level picture that I got from this game. The Patriots, congratulations, hats off to you, but they weren't ready. They were not the best team to represent the AFC, and in fact, I think if Bo Nix plays in that Denver game, Denver was in the Super Bowl, and it might have been a different outcome. Just altogether, I think a different game. But that doesn't mean that Drake May isn't going to be outstanding. It doesn't mean that they're not going to be here for a while. We'll have to see, because they're going to go from having a loser schedule now, because that's what they played as one of the worst teams the previous year. You get to play all the bad teams, right? That's how they establish balance in the league. Now they get to have a winner schedule. So we're really going to see what they're made of next season when they get going. We know that the Seahawks are tried and true. They're battle tested. They had to play the Rams 3 times to get here. They had to play the 49ers twice in the best division in all of football. And so they went through the wars to get to this game. I'm not so certain that New England had to have any of those challenges.
So you bring up a really good point. I do think that Denver would have won that game if Bo Nix is starting instead of Stidham. And I'd be really interested to see that game replayed with Seattle going up against Denver, because number one, Denver's defense is arguably the best in the league, even better than Seattle's. But number two, they're both second-year quarterbacks, but I think Bo Nix is a couple strides ahead of where Drake May is. And I don't know. I think Seattle still comes away a winner, but it's a much tighter game. I agree.
Those are good points. And so Denver sits back, and they're thinking, could have been us. And guess who else is thinking the same thing? The Rams. The Rams scored 30 points a game against this mighty Seattle defense, right? Some might say that the Super Bowl was the NFC Championship between those two teams. Yeah. So, they were licking their chops thinking, boy, if it could have been us against New England, it would have been a different story as well. So, Seattle deserved it. They won it. The Patriots had an incredible season this season. Again, I stand by my comment that they just weren't ready. They're not there yet, and I think that, but I think they will be.
Do you like the pick of Kenneth Walker as MVP?
So that goes to show you they had a really hard time
They really
trying
did.
to figure out who the MVP was. Could it have been the field goal kicker? I mean, he set an NFL record,
If there
right?
was a way to
Uh,
name
um,
Seattle's entire defense, that really would have been the right way to go.
I'm
It was
with
a
you on
historic
that.
performance on their, on that side of the ball.
I'm with you on that. Why not declare, because the defense was so incredible, why not consider calling it a team award and giving it to the captain
Yeah,
representing the whole team, whoever the captain of the defense is or captains, right? Jason Myers, though, set an NFL record. Why not a field goal kicker?
yeah,
I
five
mean,
five field goals. Yeah,
how often have field goal kickers won games and nobody, remembers that, right?
yeah.
So, I think that that's something to consider as well. I mean, rushing wise, Walker had 135 yards. He didn't score a touchdown on 27 carries. Eh, you
Yeah,
know, that
like one of
just
the
that's
commercials. Nah.
yeah, meh. And that's because the quarterbacks didn't fare well. Sam Darnold only passed for 202 yards. He had a
Yeah,
touchdown, and that came late. Drake May, two interceptions and
right.
two touchdowns, but he had 295 yards, passing from behind. So the quarterbacks weren't impressive. The wide receivers, the stars of each team weren't even a factor in this game. Jackson Smith and Jigba didn't do much. I will say this: hats off to Cooper Kupp.
Oh
He's
yeah,
now won two Super Bowls with two different teams, both in the same division, by the way. So yeah, and he's just class act all the way through. So the way it turns out, I can see Seattle being back next year. Don't know if New England gets back next year.
Seattle's got a hard road. They got a hard road, and that division, it's not like, the Rams and the 49ers are going to be resting on their laurels. You can't count on Arizona in that division just to, stay stagnant or take a step back.
Yeah.
So they're it's
Well,
just a hard division to cut through.
not yet anyway. You're right, because in the case of Arizona, while the talent isn't there, they hired a coach that knows these teams quite well, and Mike LaFleur, right? He comes from he coached for both McVay and Shanahan, so he
Yeah.
really knows, and he's played Seattle several times over the last couple of years. So congratulations to the Emerald City, a fine effort on their part. The name of the show, East meets West. The East still dominates when it comes to championships. I will say, if I can do a disclaimer, Mr. East Coaster, um, you guys have been playing sports a lot longer than the West Coast has. But right now, total
You're
championships.
already we didn't even you didn't even introduce the topic. You're
Yes,
already making excuses.
we're making it. Well, that's what we do on the West Coast, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So in the East, you guys own it, right? You own the issues. New York, New Jersey, 59 total championships.
You know what's crazy
59.
is they had to separate out New York from Boston just to make it a fair fight. Like you couldn't
Well,
say the Northeast,
sure.
but LA's
Yeah.
got its whole, so
Now they lumped in New York with New Jersey, right?
yeah.
They didn't lump in Los Angeles with San Diego, or Los Angeles with another part of, or Northern California. Boston, to your point, Boston 40 championships, and then Los Angeles checks in at 37. Seattle, by the way, is in the 20s. Now, this includes everything. This is WNBA, MLS. It's all sports.
You know what I was
But
surprised to
yeah,
see is Detroit, as its own region, has 25. I guess that's a
25.
lot of Red Wings championships. Is that right? Like
Yeah, it must be, right?
a few, two in the for no. So
Red
basketball has
Wings,
three
yeah, Red
actually
Wings
because
had
they
like
had one in the early
four of those.
2000s.
Yeah, yeah. And the
But
Lions in the early days, believe it or not, won a
oh,
championship.
that's right,
Yeah,
before the Super Bowl, so NFL
yeah.
championship games.
And in this report, which we found on of course, on where we'd get all your sports, right? ESPN.
Yeah.
Montreal had 25 championships. Guess where those came from?
Oh yeah, hockey, ice
Yeah,
hockey. Yeah.
yeah. You know,
Yeah,
so there you have
absolutely.
winningest regions. LA's got a ways to go, and Seattle. Well, maybe they'll put the Seattle championships with LA's championships next time, and that would be 57 right there.
Well, you know what
Mr.
else is
New
hard to
Jersey.
notice? Me being a
What?
bitter New York sports fan
Yes.
is that
Is that
it's been
redundant, by the way?
What? Why are we friends? I don't even
I
know.
I
Why?
don't know. I don't know.
But so they're counting the WNBA and MLS in the
Yeah,
championships. Those
yeah.
are the only ones in the 2020s.
Well,
We
good
got to
point.
go as far back as 2011, 15 years for a major
Yeah.
sport. That's the
Well,
Giants' last
okay,
Super Bowl.
but you guys get credit for the ones in the late 1800s, don't you? When we only had half a country, right,
Do
at the
we? No,
time.
no, no.
I
Come
don't know.
on. The World Series started in what,
What
1901?
was your
So,
first one that, well,
yeah, it might have
okay.
been actually the New York Giants, the New York baseball Giants.
Yeah. How about that?
Early 1900s. That was the era of John. What was his name? The guy who played in the 1800s, and then he was a
Oh
player
gosh.
manager for the Giants. What was his? I
John,
forgot his
not
name off the top of
John.
my.
Oh
What?
gosh, I don't.
John something or other. I'm gonna look it up.
Well,
It's gonna bother
well,
me.
well, should we go back and we'll find that one, we'll drop it in. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
championship.
Go
Uh,
ahead. You're not
Giants
you weren't thinking of
manager,
Connie Mack, were you? You weren't thinking
early
of, yeah.
1900s. Um,
Siri?
John McGraw. That's who I'm thinking of.
Oh,
There we
John
go.
McGraw. Yeah, of course. That's what happens with age, right?
Yeah.
All right, listen, let's talk about. I wanted to, because all the NFL big awards were announced the week of the Super Bowl. They always have a big to do about that. I'm just going to run down all the names, and I don't think we agree or disagree with any of these or disagree with most of these.
I
Miles
disagree.
Garrett, okay, Miles Garrett, Defensive Player of the Year for the Cleveland Browns. Any problems with that?
No, not at all.
Yeah,
That
all
that
right.
was a historic season that he had.
Yeah, he was fantastic. Tet McMillan is the Offensive Rookie of the Year, wide receiver for Carolina. This guy is incredible.
That's the only one I. Oh wait, no, actually, yeah, you're right.
He's like
Offense.
8 feet tall, and yeah, Protector of the Year, Joe Thuney, who's always great, guard for the Chicago Bears. Comeback Player of the Year. It could be this player every other year, Christian McCaffrey, who's always hurt, so
Yeah.
he tends to bounce back. But he's Comeback Player of the Year for the 49ers. Great, great, great player, but hurt a lot. Coach of the Year, Mike Vrabel.
How can you
Okay,
argue?
all right.
It
Well, I
goes from
mean,
4-13 to 13 and
maybe
four,
Mike
right?
McDonald could. I mean,
Yeah,
right?
I guess they all could have. Well, no, I mean, but that was
But
just
you're
such a
right.
remarkable turnaround.
First year and running that program. Defensive Rookie of the Year, Carson Schwessinger. He's a UCLA boy, linebacker for the Cleveland Browns. How did Cleveland have such a good defense and have such an awful season? By the way,
Well, that's what kept them in the games. That's why they
yeah,
won whatever it was. Did they win five games, six
and not
games?
a lot. I'll tell you that. Offensive player there, Jackson Smith and Jigba. I mean, this kid was incredible for the Seahawks. I mean, they had a wonderful season, and they do assistant coach of the year, which I just didn't remember that they did that. But Josh McDaniels, the New England Patriots offensive coordinator, assistant coach of the year.
Well,
I mean,
okay, so
he
here's the
won a
thing.
bunch of he won a bunch of Super Bowls with Belichick and Brady. I
But
mean,
this
I
is a
don't know if he
completely
worked.
different team, and
Sure,
they have. I don't know how many rookies they have on that team. That took a lot of coaching.
it's a
Patriots
young
get them to
team. I'm telling you.
13 wins. Took a lot of, and to the Super Bowl took a lot of coaching. So
Yeah.
I don't mind that. Coach of the
So
year
I
and assistant of the year.
I saved the best for last, um, because Matthew Stafford was named the most valuable player. Why?
Wait. Before
To
we get
me,
into that,
I have a problem with that, by the way, and I'll
hold on.
tell you why.
Before we
Go
get
ahead.
into
Go ahead.
that, the only issue I would say is
Yes.
offensive rookie of the year. The two quarterbacks, one from my New York Football Giants and the other one from the New Orleans Saints, if
Yeah.
they played a full season, even
And
if
they didn't.
they didn't, but I think
That's the
either
problem.
one of them could have won that offensive rookie of the year.
Woulda,
Tyler
coulda,
Shuck.
shoulda.
Yeah,
Woulda, coulda, shoulda. Come on.
I'm
Quit
crying to my
running.
cookies. I'm
Yes,
crying to
you
my
are.
cereal right now.
Listen, well, I'm going to cry too. And you would think I would be happy. Matthew Stafford, my team, the Rams, my quarterback, Matthew Stafford wins the most valuable player award. Here's the thing that just really chaps my hide. He won it by one stinking vote.
He
One
won,
vote
but he
over,
won.
hang on, over Drake May.
Yeah, no, he won.
Drake May.
I no,
Did he
I
look like
understand. Drake.
did he look like a most valuable player in the Super Bowl? I
No, he
realize
didn't. He
the
didn't. But the
voting is
votes were
not
cast.
based on playoffs. I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. But let me just throw out a couple of numbers to you. I look, Matthew Stafford threw for more yards than
a lot more yards.
yeah, quite a few more yards than Drake May did. And here's the thing that really just makes me nuts about that. And I'm just gonna get into some of the stats for you. Is if I can find them all. In the postseason stats is So Stafford was number one in a lot of the numbers, right? He had 47 yards passing. Drake May finished fourth in yards at 43.94. Listen, I'm not beating up Drake May. Drake May had a wonderful season. I think he's going to be around a long time. Here's the big number for me. Stafford threw 46 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, 46 and 8. Drake May, 31 and 8. All right, 31 and 8. So 15 more touchdowns Stafford threw versus May. That would take 5 games for Drake May to catch him in touchdowns, right? 5 more games. Now, Stafford did make quite a few more attempts than about 100 more passing attempts than Drake May. So you could say, well, of course he had more touchdowns. Sure, but he should have had a lot more interceptions too, right? When you throw a lot more. So this wasn't even close to me. And it goes to my feeling when I started as a sportscaster in the 1800s, I covered some of those Yankees. No, is that this East Coast bias? There's always been a preference to everything East Coast, and this just without question to me wasn't even a close race. I don't get it.
You think this had to do with East Coast bias?
Yes, I do, very much so. I don't even know who the voters are, but I'm sticking with that comment.
You know what? I'm going to start introducing West Coast bias on this show. Every time
there should be.
You dismiss a story that I propose, it's going to be West Coast bias. That's what I'm going to
only I'll tell you where I came to that conclusion.
Wait.
Because,
okay, so let me take your point seriously.
Yeah.
So I do think that it shouldn't have been that close because, especially to your point, at the touchdowns, it was a no-brainer. Plus the fact that all of those extra attempts meant that the offense was running through, was orchestrated by Matthew Stafford, whereas Drake May was much more of a game manager and well coached. Not to say he didn't have a great season. He had a great season. He's a good quarterback. But there's just no comparison. So it should have been much further apart. But there were a couple of stats for Drake May. Yards per attempt. There were a couple of stats that did stand out that said, no, this kid, it's not just fluff. This is for real. So
give me touchdown to interception ratio every time.
day.
By the way, Jared Goff had better numbers than Drake May. All right.
Yeah.
Dak Prescott had equal numbers to Drake May. And here's another big one that people failed to grasp. While Matthew Stafford was playing Seattle twice, San Francisco twice, Philadelphia, Chicago, New England had that loser schedule again, right?
Yeah.
And so anyway. So I'm ranting about something that really was good for me and my team.
If I didn't know better, you sound like a New Yorker. You're complaining after you won. The guy won
It's not good enough, I tell you. Not good enough. So those were the honors that took place last week. All right. I didn't tell you this in advance because I forgot. We're going to move the next 2 stories into our pop culture. You ready? You want to pop that culture?
Let's pop that culture.
Let's do it.
Pop that culture.
Super Bowl halftime show. I want to talk about that. 135 million viewers watched it. We're not going to touch on the politics end of it. That's for talking politics and religion without killing each other.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a perfect topic for your show.
Actually, it's a good opportunity to bring you on TPNR. So let's do that for your long-awaited appearance on TPNR.
So your audience can get mad at me. Yeah. Listen, for me, so I don't want to talk about the politics of it, but I do want to talk about, the excitement of a halftime show on the Super Bowl. Look, I don't love every act that comes on just because it's not my genre. And so, I could tell you the ones that I loved and tell you the ones that I didn't love. But there's a reason that the halftime show is such a big deal now. And let me just tell you about some of the halftime shows that are listed in the top of the charts based on Billboard actually put out a
I don't care
what
Billboard says. There's only one right answer for best halftime show ever. There's only one right answer.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. And by the way, on this list, think about everybody's performed. You got the Rolling Stones, Coldplay. But Bad Bunny made an appearance. Well, he did with Lady Gaga and Ricky Martin. So it was kind of many of these you'll see some artists make an appearance. So they listed that one as number 10, right? And by the way,
I thoroughly enjoyed it. It wasn't political. It was just a really enjoyable, high
Yeah.
production, incredible production value.
So
I was really impressed.
that's what I loved about it. The choreography, the dance, the sets.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard an entire Bad Bunny song in my life. I watched him on SNL. It's not for me in general, but boy, was that a good show.
Yeah.
Billboard ranks it in at number 10. Okay.
All
Michael
right.
Jackson comes in at number 8. Madonna on that list. Lady Gaga comes in at 6. The Boss. The Boss
That's
ranked
number one,
number
baby.
5, number 5 on the Billboard chart.
Number 5 is
It would
wrong.
be
He's
this
number
number here.
one.
1, 2, 3. Like I'm teaching my granddaughter now. 1,
Number
2,
one,
3, 4, 5.
Bruce.
So Beyonce checks in another B, checks in at 4. Dr. Dre and Friends, that was the one where you had Snoop Dogg. I think.
Oh, that was a good show. That
Eminem
was
came
just a
out
few
on
years
that
ago.
one. U2 checks in at number 2
I
from the
enjoyed that one, too.
2002 performance.
That was an important one because it's right after 9/11.
And if
you
you
remember
go
correctly.
If you go quiz a bunch of your friends about what they think the number one performance is, a lot of them will come to the same conclusion.
The Janet
And
Jackson one?
I'm not talking Janet Jackson with Justin Timberlake. That is in the top 15. Prince.
Oh,
Prince
that's
number
right.
1 at
Oh, man.
2007. In the Rain. I mean, this guy. I got to tell you. And that's my wheelhouse. I love me some Prince. Saw him a couple of times. Once at the Hollywood Bowl and once at the former Staples Center. Great show. And so.
What's crazy is
Yeah.
is a lot of folks didn't realize that the rain was real.
Yeah.
The timing of that
That's a
rain
good
was just
point.
impeccable.
So here's what I wanted. The reason I do, and again, I don't care about.
But
the
you
politics
missed
of it.
one really important one, Rick.
What was that?
Elvis Presto. Bring back Elvis Presto.
Elvis Presto.
There was I think it was the year I graduated high school.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
They had like an Elvis Presley
Yes.
impersonator doing the 3D card tricks.
Yes.
Elvis Presto.
I think because you're thinking of back in the days when we grew up watching the big game.
Yeah.
The halftime show was marching bands.
Yeah.
And Up with People.
Well, that's for
every
you.
year, right?
You were born in the
So-
1800s. I
so let
wasn't
me-
born until the 1900s.
So let me tell you why things changed. I was working at the Fox owned station in Los Angeles as a sportscaster in 1992 when something changed. It was kind of revolutionary. There was a show there, a popular show that we used to love seeing on the lot called In Living Color.
Oh yeah, sure.
Produced and starred the Wayans brothers.
The Wayans brothers.
Jim Carrey, Jamie Foxx. These guys were all, we'd see them walking around the lot, and it was just so much fun going and watching rehearsals and watch them do their shows. Fox was an out-of-the-box thinker. Remember, they
Yeah.
were the rebel startup network
Yeah, that's
back in
right.
those days. And they got the great idea of, well, if they're going to run another Up with People or another marching band, let's counter-program the halftime show. So they did a show in 92, and then Living Color show, and it
I
started
remember
right
this.
at halftime.
Yeah.
And they got at that time, 92, 22, 23 million viewers, right? So guess what happens? The NFL, they're no dummies, man. They don't want any eyeballs leaving. That's their bread and butter.
Oh, so it was
product.
the next year that Michael Jackson came on. Wow,
Next year,
okay.
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm sent out to do a live shot in Pasadena because on a couple of nights before the Super Bowl, and we're told about this cool concert that's going to take place at halftime in the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. I want to say that was the Cowboys Bills. I think it was another one of those Bills.
Yeah, that's right. It
Super
was the
Bowl
Bills.
losses.
It was the Bills
I
run
think.
4 in a row, and I think it was the second of the second Bills Cowboys game. Yeah, that's right.
So I'm doing a live shot from the stage where Michael Jackson performed. And what was really kind of unique about this is this was a whole new kind of a production. They were going to do a concert with singers and dancers and all this kind of stuff. And they had like literally minutes, 9, 10, 12 minutes to get all the parts out on the field at halftime, assemble everything,
Yeah.
put the show on, and then tear down the set and get it off the field. So when the players so this was kind of a new thing for them, and it was Michael Jackson who performed, and nobody ever left the Super Bowl again after that because of their halftime performances. And after that point, they started bringing in the big talent every single year who wants to perform next.
Yeah.
Because you're never going to get more eyeballs on a television program than you will performing at the Super Bowl.
Well,
So there you have a
Michael was
little history.
the biggest pop star in the world at that point.
He was. They had I was standing on the stage, hoping the little trap door that he was going to come in up through would not open up while I was doing my live shot. But
So
what a
you were
treat that
there.
was!
You were
I covered
on
that
site.
game. Covered
Wow.
that game, and when Michael did it, I remember my daughter. She was a little girl at the time, and she loved his music, and she calls me while I'm sitting in press row at the Super Bowl covering that game. She goes, she's crying, literally crying on the phone, saying, "I want Michael Jackson's there. I want to be with Michael Jackson." It's like the whole, he's singing "We Are the World," and he had a bunch of kids on the stage with him. So that was part of the act there.
So were they? Was
But
it?
anyway?
Were you
That's the
there?
history.
Were you there because it was at the Rose Bowl, or were you going to
Yeah,
every Super Bowl at that point?
I was covering it because it was the Rose Bowl. If it would have been a game, any Super Bowl that was on Fox, I was generally covering that as well as the local games. Or if we go to San Diego, so I've covered. I'm in double digits with the number of Super Bowls I covered, and I've been to a lot of places, mostly regional locations. Although I covered a game in Miami and so it. But at that point, my point is that '93, that was the beginning of the big entertainment at halftime because the NFL did not want to lose eyeballs at any point. Now, keep in mind, they're charging a lot of money for
Yeah.
the spots, right? Those commercials.
Yeah.
Which brings us to our next story,
Our next one.
which is the Super Bowl commercials. Usually the most talked about part of the Super Bowl is the commercials because not everybody's a sports fan that bellies up to the TV on Super Bowl Sunday. So, it's very often the most memorable part of the Super Bowl would be the commercials. Here's the thing for me. I thought this was a little bit of a down year on commercials. In our house, Corey, we watch the commercials.
Yeah.
So we don't get up and leave at halftime. If you've got to run to the restroom, you have to pick another spot because we want to see the commercials just
Yeah.
to see which ones we like. There were quite a few that were listed. I'll just mention a couple of them. Brian Baumgartner from The Office multiplies the ramp, as they called it. There was the Manscaped
I couldn't
commercial
do it.
that
I couldn't
grows
do it.
people out.
Yeah.
You talked about meh. You know why YouTube TV asked
Yeah.
you not to settle for meh. State
Although
Farm.
Kelsey's performance was pretty good.
He wasn't bad. Jason Kelsey was
Yeah.
was good. How about State Farm living on a prayer, doing the Bon Jovi?
I'm partial to those Jersey
Parody?
boys.
Of
Even,
course
even
you
though
are.
that guy, he's a traitor. John Bon Jovi, he's a Patriots fan. What the hell? Should be a Giants fan.
I thought it was cool seeing Kurt Russell in the Michelob Ultra ad.
That was a pretty good one. Yeah.
Let me give you my two favorites, and I'd like to hear to see if you have any feedback on those. So most artistic for me, the one that I found that was kind of really intriguing and fun to watch was the Emma Stone one, which
I
thought
love that
was
one.
really
The
artistic.
Cinema
The
Verite or
Squarespace
whatever.
commercial,
She
very
really pulled it off.
noir, right?
Yeah.
Noir, and she made it very comedic. And she might be the best actor currently of our generation. She's just incredible. But my favorite, and I'm a sucker for slapstick. So you know where I'm going with this one?
It might be my favorite one
Sucker for
too.
slapstick.
Ben Stiller.
Ben Stiller.
I couldn't stop laughing. That was that was my favorite one as well.
Benson
man.
Boone.
So
it's
I
funny,
got a story for you. So Ben Stiller, he is first of all, he's a really decent human being. I've only been around him in person one time, but I know plenty of other people who've worked with him for decades now. There was one time I was in Edit Bay, and he came over. It was Tropic Thunder, and
Yeah.
he was in an Edit Bay, and it was a rough cut of the trailer, the trailer number one, and it's still about 3.5 minutes long, and him and I guess it's his producer that's with him, and they sit in stone cold silence watching the whole thing, and then the editor plays it, and then after the end of it. There was like, I don't know, 3 to 5 seconds, but it felt like an eternity. And he finally goes, yeah, that's funny. That's really effing funny.
very understated.
Yeah, because
This guy.
he's analyzing it like a scientist.
Yeah.
So he was taking notes. Yeah, that's funny. That's really effing funny.
he is such a talent. He really is one of our treasures who is so underrated. Ben Stiller. I mean,
Did you
we know he's-
watch the documentary he made on his parents?
I didn't see that, and
Oh, it's such a
he's
sweet
executive
documentary.
producer of huge shows. He's an
Yeah.
actor, the director, producer. He, but the thing on this, and for any of our viewers and listeners, if you didn't see the Super Bowl, if you if you weren't around when this was happening, Benson Boone, who Benson Boone is very popular right now. My kids give me a hard time because they've heard me humming a few of his songs. I like his songs. He's an American Idol contestant who's kind of blown up recently, but he likes to do backflips off his
Yeah.
piano.
Yeah.
I think it's a bad idea. And so
At a certain point, you don't risk putting your butt over your head. You just don't do it.
I had to, and by the way, I'm always guilty of this. I know my favorite commercial, but I always have to go back and look what was the commercial for.
Oh,
Because I got caught up. And this is one of those you're so caught up
Well,
in what's going on, you don't know that it's for Instacart, right?
yeah. I'll give
And
you a
so,
couple others.
well, let me just
Go
real
ahead,
quick
yeah.
finish this thought. So Benson Boone does his flips off of the piano, and you can see a jealous Ben Stiller. They're doing
Yeah.
a duet. For those who didn't see the commercial, and they can look it up on YouTube. He's trying to emulate everything the young Benson Boone is doing. And then it just, disaster ensues as he crashes into stuff and falls. I just love slapstick. And, he just was marvelous doing that.
Yeah. Lisa enjoys that too. Nothing she likes more than, some man falling on his face and hurting
good
himself
pratfall.
significantly. But there were a couple others I
Yes.
enjoyed. The Dunkin' commercial. Hey, you like donuts? How you like them nuts?
Of course you like that one. Okay. By the
And
way,
then-
the most overrated donut in the country. Okay. Let's
Wait,
just be honest. For
Seriously,
those of you
man.
guys in Boston,
you were testing our friendship
listen,
earlier in this episode. Now you're
I
really
go to
pressing the limits.
I'm going to bring this back to sports. I'm in Boston covering the Celtics Lakers NBA championship a few years ago, and all I hear is Dunkin' Donuts, Dunkin' Donuts, Dunkin' Donuts, and I find a Dunkin' Donuts right next to a bar where Kevin McHale is hanging out. The former Celtics center, and I tried to get him to do an interview, and I could tell he'd been in the bar for a little while, and so I didn't blame him. He turned me down, and I could tell why. He wouldn't have been able to come and do it. Anyway, Dunkin' Donuts right next to that. I thought, okay, I'm going to finally break down and try one of these amazing donuts. It's not even a fair donut. It's an okay donut. I love
right.
donuts.
So
it doesn't come close to Winchell's.
Winchell's. So hold on a second. So I'm not even a donuts fan. You go for the coffee, and everything else is filler, literally filler. So,
Coffee.
Yeah, the coffee. The coffee's best. All right, but the Dunkin' Donuts,
Yes.
and you had all those actors: Jason Alexander, you had Urkel on there, you had Jennifer Ben Affleck, you had TB, you had Tom Brady, Ted Danson, you had Matt LeBlanc. It was just a great. I really enjoyed it. They didn't take themselves too seriously, and Affleck has got a good run now with Dunkin' Donuts, so it's perfect. The other one that I really enjoyed, they pulled off a little bit of sappy "Won't You Be My Neighbor" for the Redfin rocket. Yeah, I really
think
enjoyed
didn't
that
Lady
one.
Gaga sing that? I think.
Yeah,
I
she
think
sang that one.
song. Yeah.
The last
I like
time I saw a commercial that pulled off sappy was the one that Savannah was in. There was a Toyota commercial where the dad drops his daughter off to go off to the army. That was Savannah's commercial.
Oh my gosh, Savannah.
Yeah.
For our listeners, Savannah.
Oh, Savannah, my oldest kid. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. There you go. I enjoyed the Backstreet Boys ones too. So the commercials they did. So anyway, a lot of fun. I didn't think overall they were up to par, but my two favorites I thought were fantastic. Ben Stiller crashing into things, and then Emma Stone's.
Yeah,
that was
those are my two
Squarespace or
favorites
something
as well.
like that, right?
Yeah.
Believe it or not, that's it, man. That was a fully packed Super Bowl show. And I warned you, it would be like that. But here's the thing. Super Bowl, the most, watched program in sports in general. And we're not going to be talking about it for a long time.
Wait,
so
are we not talking about
enjoy it.
USFL or whatever the hell the other league is? Flag football? No? So that's not on the agenda? Okay.
All right.
I got my Mets hat on, so I can't wait. Pitchers and catchers report,
next
baby.
show.
Let's go.
We have to tell all of our listeners and viewers that starts off. It's gonna be baseball, and of course basketball and
Hockey playoffs, hopefully.
Well, if something comes, So in the meantime, we have to say goodbye. I'm Rick Garcia. He's Corey Nathan. It's East meets West. Thank you so much for joining us.
And don't forget, let everyone know you can find us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever you get your favorite podcast. This was fun, Rick.
And a lot of fun, Corey. See you next time.